Hi guys, and welcome once again to the channel. Today we are playing a bit more with the track robot from episode 1. I will leave a link in the description where you can go and watch that again. Today I'm going to show you how to use a loop to make the robot move continuously. Let's get going. Now in the Mindstorms app, the first thing that we need to do is we'll need to tell the brick where the motors are. So I've got the motors plugged in on ports A and B. So we're going to pull out this code over here, link it into the main program, and it tells the brick, right, we've got the motors set at A and B. Now to get the loop started, we go down to control. Now the Mindstorms app gives you 3 types of loops. There's the repeat for a certain amount of actions, there's a repeat forever, and there's a repeat until a certain condition is met. The one that we're going to use is this repeat for a certain amount of actions. Now we want the robot to move in a square. I'm just going to link this into the main program over here. Get this clip in here. We want the robot to move into a square. So that's going to be around about 4 sides. So I'm just going to put a 4 in there. Then to get the robot to move. Now in episode 1 I showed you how to get this extra node in here called more movement. First we'll need to tell the robot we want it to go straight. So we'll drag out this code over here, link it into the loop itself. Now it tells the robot on all the motors, move straight. I want it to move straight for 30 centimeters. And I'm going to make the speed 25. Then I want the robot to move to the right. So we're going to pull this code, link it also into the loop itself, just below the other code. And for space that I have here on my table, I'm just going to say I want to make a 20 centimeter right hand turn. Then on motor A, I want that to run at 25% speed, and motor B is going to run at a negative 25% speed. That's so that motor B can go to the back and we can make a very sharp turn to the right hand side. Then for good coding practice, we'll just pull out the stop here. As soon as the loop finishes, it will stop the program and exit the program in total. Let's have a look and see what that does to the robot. Let's run it. And that is as easy as a loop can be for you. Now, as easy as that code is, we can make it look a lot better by using some variables and defining some blocks. So first off, we're going to start by defining some variables. So we click here on the nodes, click on variables, and then we're going to make a new variable. So our first variable is going to be distance. Say okay for that. We're going to make another variable called speed, and then we're also going to need a negative speed variable, so we can call that neg speed. Right, as you can see, it's now given us a couple of more options on the variable list here, and that's to set our variables with. So we drag out the set variable. So we're going to set the distance first. I'm going to say the distance is going to be 25. Then we're going to drag out the speed. Oops, not that one. I'm going to set the speed. So on the drop down here, we'll select speed. This speed will also make 25. Then we're going to say the negative speed. Now remember, the negative speed is that we're going to need to make the robot one motor move backwards. So we've defined now 3 of our variables here. So first off, after doing that, we're going to tell the brick, alright, our motors are set to A and B. That's where the motors are plugged in on the brick. And then we're going to have our loop. So we click over onto control. We drag out the repeat for a certain amount of repetitions, and we set that to 4. And for good coding practice, we're just going to say as soon as the loop is completed, it's got to stop and exit the whole program. Now this program is going to run procedurally, so it's going to start at the top, run through all the code until it gets down here to the stop. Now this is where it gets interesting. We can now actually go and define blocks. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on the My Blocks section here on this node over here, and we're going to make a new block. So our first block is going to be, we want the robot to go forward, and we save that. Right, that will give us a new block that we can work with. So we're going to drag that block over to the right hand side here. So in this block, we'll tell the robot what to do. So the first thing that is actually quite good for the Lego motors is to tell it to come to a complete stop. Why do you want it to come to a complete stop? So the motor's got small gears on the inside of them, and as soon as you want to make a change in direction or a change in speed, it's always a good practice to let the motors come to a full stop before you do that change. It protects the motors and it increases the lifetime of the motors also. There's no sudden direction changes or speed changes, so the lifetime of the gears are so much longer then. To put in that bit of a wait sequence, we go over to Control, and we have a wait sequence here, or a wait block up here. Just going to drag that wait out, and I'm not going to wait for a full 1 second. I'm just going to say 0.5 of a second. I just want that little bit of a wait so the motors can come to a full stop before it does something. And it also protects the motors if there's a bit of inertia, all depending on the surface that you are running your robot on. If it runs up an incline or down an incline, it just helps the motors to come to a stop and before you do something else with them. So we put in a 0.5 second stop, then we go down to the more movement section and we pull out the move straight. Right, so this is going to make the robot move straight for 10 centimeters, but we've already declared a distance here. So we go down to the variables again, and now we can pull out our distance variable over here and slot that into the centimeter section. So what does this do? The 10 has now all of a sudden become 25 centimeters. This makes it easier. So where you have very large programs and you need to change the values for speed or distance, it would actually mean that you need to go through the whole program and change all of those values. Where with variables, you can define them in one spot and change them in one spot. So I can go now and change this distance to 30, and it'll immediately change the value over here to 30 also. We've also got the percentage speed here, so we've already got a speed variable. I'm just going to drag the speed variable into there and slot it into the speed. Now it's set the speed to 25 also. And just because after this we're going to tell the robot to go to the right hand side, we will put in another wait sequence over here. And we're going to make that also a 0.5 second wait for it. Now, to make this code a bit easier to understand, or if somebody else were to use this code, you can tell them what this block does. By just right-clicking on the block itself, it is going to give you a pop-up menu where you can add a comment. It's always good to have comments. It gives you, even if you come back a couple of weeks from now and you wonder, what in the world were I doing here? And you can see, okay, this was where the robot is supposed to move forward. So here we're just going to say move forward, and we're just going to move that right next to the define block here, and it's just going to be a comment to say, listen, this whole piece of, or this whole block of code tells you that this is going to move forward. We can do the same over here at the main program. We're going to add a comment here and say, this is the main program. And the more comments you have, the better it is to understand your program and better to find certain sections of your code. You might think that with the Lego Mindstorms, you won't get that complex kind of code. This code can really, all depending on what you want your robot to do, this can become very complex. So it's always a good thing to have a bit of comments just to give you an indication of what you were doing where. Right, our next movement that we want is we want the robot to move to the right hand side. So we're going to define a new block once again. Make block, and we say move right. Yeah, that sounds good. We'll save that. We're going to drag this out. No, not that one. This one. Go. Give that also a comment. And say moves the robot to the right. There we go. Let's make it look all nice and neat. Okay, we've already got a wait sequence over here. But if this code were to change in the future, it would be nice to have a wait sequence in the move right also. We can just go to control once again, pull out the wait, and put in another 0.5 second wait sequence. Then we go down to the more movement. I'm gonna say move. Move. And once again, we can say go to the variables. We already have a distance, and we have a positive speed for the right hand for the A motor, and we're going to use a negative speed for the B motor. So now we have a 25 centimeter distance, a positive speed for the A motor, and a negative minus 25 speed for the B motor to make the turn. And once again, we can just say after this, wait another second, which is another 0.5 of a second. Now the seconds we can also put into variables, so we can just define that also into a variable. Let's make a new variable, call that seconds, and we're going to set the amount for that variable. We're going to drop it in here between these two, set that to seconds, and we'll call it a 0.5 second delay that we need. And over here we have the seconds, and we can just slot the seconds into all the wait sequences. So now if we want to make the seconds a full second, or maybe 2 seconds, all depending on how much we need, we only need to change the variable at one spot and not in 4 different spots in the end. Right, let's have a look and see what this code does. The robot's gone into a bit of a power save mode here. Let's just connect here quickly. Right, now to get the robot to move. So in the repeat block, we're just going to go down to the My Blocks area, and we drag out the forward. So we're going to make it move forward once, and then move to the right hand side. And it's going to repeat the forward, so it's going to go forward and run all this code over here, right, run all this code over here, and then start again from forward again. So it's going to repeat that code 4 times and then exit the program. So let's have a look and see if it actually does as we programmed it to do. And you can see the wait sequences after every move. It's only 0.5 of a second of a wait, but it's still a wait in there. and that is as easy as it is. You can see that the square that we ran this time is not quite square, but that's because we actually put in a 25 for the distance, so it's doing a 25 distance. You can actually change that or maybe put in another variable to make your square a bit more on the square side. But this was just to actually show you how blocks and variables can work together to make the program a bit more neater and a bit more professional. And that's it, guys. That's 4 loops. I'm gonna show you in the upcoming videos the other loops and how to use them with some of the sensors. This was just a basic to show you how a loop would actually work. I hope you enjoyed this video. Drop me a like if you did. See you in the next one. Cheers.